Okay, now it's time for polygons. So we're moving along and you've got the basic concepts now, so we can just kind of go over polygons relatively quickly. You already understand GeoJSONs a little bit. You've looked at Leaflet documentation. Polygons are basically going to be the same as lines. It's just a slightly different geography type. So here in geojson.io, we can draw a polygon. So when we draw a polygon, we see that it automatically connects the first to the last, so that it's basically a line, but just with the last points connected to each other. And if we scroll down, we can see that just as we had a point and it was one array, then we had a line, which is like an array of points, the polygon has another level of nesting. It's like an array of points. And I find this to be a little confusing. There are some kind of weird reasons why this is the case, but it's more important that you just kind of recognize, okay, there's one level of nesting with points, or there's no nesting, then there's one level, and then there's two levels with polygons, right? It's kind of easy to see the progression that way. But ultimately, we're still dealing with basically like a list of points. One of the key things about polygons is that the first point and the last point have to be the same. You can see here they're the same. If you don't tell it that, sometimes it'll still render it properly because you're telling it that it's a polygon, but sometimes it'll throw an error and say like, hey, the first point isn't the same as the last point. This isn't really a polygon. And that's just because that's how these work, is that it's a closed line, okay? So now when we're actually adding this to Leaflet, we're going to be doing the same thing, that we can come up here and look, and they call it a polygon. So there's their lat longs, polygon, add to map. It's kind of the same thing that we already saw. So if we go to the Leaflet here and we add it, we have again this lat longs thing where we add the coordinates. Now in their example, they don't nest them that extra level because that's the GeoJSON way. Whereas you don't, like I kind of said, you don't really need to do that. It's basically a set of points. But you can see also they don't make the first one match the last one. They know you're giving it a polygon, so they will just do that. Leaflet will just do that automatically. Now I took the points from my example that I had done before. I do the same reversal that we did with the line, and then I stick it in as the polygon. So if we do that and load it, there's our polygon. Okay, cool. So polygon, not a big deal. You treat it just like a line, and except you're doing l.polygon instead of l.polyline. Okay, pretty straightforward. Now, when it comes to the GeoJSON, it's even easier, I think, because you just do exactly the same thing that we did with the line. You don't actually have to tell it that it's l.polygon or l.polyline. You're just saying, hey, it's a GeoJSON, style it, right? So you told it already in the GeoJSON that it's a polygon. So Leaflet knows, oh, it's a polygon, I'll style it like a polygon because it says it's one. And we can also do the same thing where we can tell it this little style function that turns it red just by adding that in there. So it really works, pretty much exactly the same. You just have to know, again, to reverse it if you're doing it this direct way, or if you're doing it through the GeoJSON, you just plug it in. And just to kind of, bring it around, we're going to go and add into that GeoJSON also have a line. So we have a line and a polygon. So here I'm going to add another feature here, which is, okay, now we have a line string and a polygon as one GeoJSON, and we're going to load it. And we can see they both appear at once. And we didn't have to do like l.polyline, l.polygon, and separate out the features and reverse the coordinates. So you can see why I'm trying to get you into the GeoJSON thing. Ultimately, it's a bit more tightly packaged, and it's also going to be how we approach things with MapLibra in the next few lessons. So getting used to GeoJSONs is good, but you don't have to do it. If you find it in Leaflet, it's easier. It is a bit more like directly straightforward. You don't have to learn this additional data format, and it's a fine way to do things. So that's adding polygons. Now you've got Leaflet points, lines, and polygons. You can basically be able to visualize different data. And from here, with Leaflet, we are going to learn like things like pop-ups, click events, and then we're just into making different types of maps. Like we're really done a lot of fundamentals. So now we'll switch over and we'll do the same thing we just did, but with MapLibra, because it's a slightly different concept. It's a different way that we approach it. And once you do that, you'll be able to choose from either of these libraries to tackle your mapping projects. See you.